Welcome to Introducing Little Wargame number 2. In Introducing Little Wargame number 1, we went over the main lobby UI, and in the subsection of 1, Introducing Little Wargame 1A, we went over Little Chat Game, which was a game that you could play almost as a mini-game inside of the chat using the emotes that you had unlocked. But let's say you've done it. You've finally gone and clicked play and started a game, or play versus CPU and started a game, or you were in a lobby with somebody else and they started the game. You're now here. You're at this point. And it's at this point that a lot of confusion sets in, but we're here to clean up all of that. We're going to start talking about the in-game UI. You've left the main lobby. This is Little Wargame. Up at the top left-hand side, we have 3 buttons: Options, Friends and Messages, and Chat History. Options is similar to what it used to be in the main lobby UI. You see that we have access to full screen and don't pop up in-game messages, and pause, and load custom AI, and quit. But what is quit? That's the only change from the version of options that's in main lobby UI. If you hit quit or press the N key while this sub-window is brought up, you will immediately lose the game. Unless, of course, you have already won the game. So if anyone ever tells you to press F10 and then N very quickly, don't do it. As you can see, F10 brings up the options menu and would have us leave the game. To the right of that is Friends and Messages. This hasn't changed from what it was in the main lobby UI, but it is nevertheless here, and it's a place where you can access where are your friends, who's online, do you have any requests being sent out, what messages have you received. And to the right of that, we have Chat History. Okay, how does one chat? Chat history was obviously blank. Well, if you press enter, you will open up the ability to text. So enter, and now we're just going to say, this is the first text. Okay, if we go to chat history, there it is. There's a history. Itano Circus said, this is the first chat. Now let's hit enter. You may notice that we can send to all, or we can send to allies. All will send to every player in the game. Spectators, people on the other team, etc. But allied chat will, if you're a spectator, send only to people that are also spectators. If you are on a team game, like a 2v2, it will only send that texted or chat message to your allies. So we're just going to go ahead and put, this is allied chat, but this is all chat. Keep in mind, again, when we can hit enter to go into chat, and instead of left-clicking to change between all and allies, we can simply use the tab button. Look how we're tabbing between all and allies. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Next, we're going to go over a section that is in the upper right-hand side. That's extremely relevant. The first is the clock. It simply shows the number of minutes and seconds that have gone by. To the right of that is gold. It's how much gold you currently have in the game. And to the right of that, the most complex section of this particular subsection of the UI, your supply versus your maximum supply. So, each unit in the game, unless it has been modified to do otherwise, takes up a certain amount of supply. You have a maximum amount of supply that your army can reach so that it doesn't get too big too quickly. This is a staple of Little Wargame. It's extremely important to understand this. So right now, we have 7 workers. Each of these 1 workers represents 1 supply. Not because they're 1 unit, but because the unit itself only takes up 1 supply. Some units like wolves, etc. might take up 2 supply. That's a topic for a different video. Notice that we have 7 workers, each costing 1 supply, so that indicates the 7. And then we have 10. This indicates our maximum supply count. The biggest it can get in the default game is 150, but mods can change whatever that number to pretty much whatever they would like it to be. And castles, fortresses, and houses give 10 supply. So we have a castle that gives 10 maximum supply. That is our second number in this fractional looking representation. And we have 7 workers that cost 1 supply each, 7 times 1 giving us 7 supply. Excellent. Now we're here. We're in the main area. We are in the main play section for Little Wargame. We're going to get into complex movements and things of that nature in a different video. Suffice to say here, you can access most things by left-clicking on them. We'll start with that. So this is a castle. If you want to click on a unit and see what its hit points are, or maybe what it is, or its armor, or its progress bar, you can left-click it. So notice, this middle left section here says castle, 2250 hit points of 2250, 1 armor. Worker, 120 of 120, a list of descriptive fields for what it's capable of doing. Over here, a gold mine has 6,000 remaining gold. What about this tree? It's not selectable, it's just a tree. Okay, excellent. Down here in the near bottom left, we have this little icon, idle workers. You have idle workers. It says the tooltip when we hover over it. Click this button to select one of them. Notice how it is rapidly shifting between, as each time I click, it goes to a different worker that isn't doing anything. None of these workers are mining. To show the point, let's make them mine. Now, select idle worker only selects one worker. Let's say we have the castle selected. Oh, we selected the idle worker. This is the power of the idle workers tooltip. Now we're going to get into the bottom section of this main game UI, and then we're going to go into a separate video talking about some of the movements and the units and the abilities and buildings and things of that nature. This is just to make you feel comfortable with this in-game UI. Alright, in the bottom left-hand side, we have the map. This map is a mini-map. It represents what you have seen and what you have not seen. On this map, we can see that we have access in the mini-map to this upper left-hand area. It shows a number of gold mines, the tree edges of the map. It even has the castle. It shows the mini workers that are moving over there by the castle and our one lazy worker who needs to get to work. Notice how the idle worker bar there, tooltip and small button disappears. But there's also this gray area. And notice what we have here. The areas where we can actively see in the main bar right here are represented in a bright color. The areas that we have explored but currently don't have vision of are similarly denoted in our minimap. And the areas that we have never explored are over here in dark green. And that is also shown in our mini-map. And so the mini-map is an essential tool for getting a quick snapshot, a quick at-a-glance look at everything that you have. In fact, pro tip, one of the things you can do to win more Little Wargame games is look at your mini-map more often. And if you don't see as much as you'd like to see, maybe expand the vision of what you can see a little bit more. All right. Then we're going to go to this middle bar. Notice, of course, that it represents whatever we selected. We have talked about that previously. And now for perhaps the most complex of any of these elements. The command card over on the right-hand side. The command card, very easily, notice, it has nothing for gold mine. It has nothing where we're not selected on anything. The command card represents all of the possible actions that a unit or building can take, and it only refers to the selected building or unit. So, the castle, it has 4 abilities. It doesn't quite matter what they are for this video, we'll get into it in another one. But it can train worker and a bird and an upgrade to a fortress and research bird detection. Each one of these abilities has a letter by it. This letter you may hear people refer to as a hotkey. You can more quickly access the actions inside of a command card using the hotkey. So for instance, let's say we want more workers, right? 7 is great, but we want more than 7. We can select the castle, select and left-click train worker, but I don't want you to do that. Get in the habit of simply pressing E. Notice how pressing E, the hotkey over here for train worker, did the same thing as going over here and pressing E. Notice that pressing R to remove the worker that we're building is the same thing as just clicking the button R on our keyboard. Hotkeys are an amazing tool for speeding up everything that you're going to do, but they are referring to what the capacities are of a unit or building in the command part. Let's look at a more complex and more complete unit. The worker. The worker has all these things in its command card. It can make buildings. It has a separate buildings ability. It can attack, stop, hold position, or repair. Now, what all these do isn't extremely relevant. What is relevant is notice that the worker's command card looks nothing like the castle's command card. And units that you either don't control because they are neutral or because they're enemy units also don't show a command card. So, which of 2 of these 3 are ours? Of the castle, the worker, and the gold mine? The command card says there's nothing here in the gold mine. Either it has no commands, or it's not under our control. Notice that the worker can build buildings, and it can attack, and it can stop, and it can hold position and repair, but the castle doesn't have those abilities. Some units, such as the soldier, at least at present, they have command cards, but they don't even have as many abilities as this worker. Some have drastically more. Some modded maps have increasingly and ginormously complex command cards. But whenever you hear people refer to hotkeys, this is the most important part of this video of the whole UI area. If you want to navigate in LittleWarGame, you are using abilities overwhelmingly that are represented in the command card. So it's well worth getting used to the idea of, instead of clicking a unit or building and then clicking on the command card, go ahead in the future, as best as possible, whenever you click on that building or that worker, use the hotkeys that are written in the command card. And that does it for the basic in-game UI. We're going to do a bit more work on things like what the units are, buildings, maybe some movement techniques or selections or hotkeys. We're going to get into that in a second, but not in this video.